Eriberto Perez coming to you with another video review. And on today's episode, thanks to the folks over at Star Ace, we're going to be taking a look at their new Kong Skull Island Kong vs. Skullcrawler vinyl figure set. For the package, you see you got a fairly large box here. You got a nice image of Kong right down there about to punch you. And then a really gorgeous background here. You can see that on the side here, you got helicopters coming into Skull Island. You got that on the other side as well, with an absolutely beautiful vista there in the back. The front here, you can see that you have an open window. Now, normally the open window allows you to see what's inside, but there's another clamshell that's wrapped around the figure set, which makes it a little bit harder to see if I were to offer some constructive criticism, because you can't really see it. Maybe just make this not even here. I mean, the whole point of having an open window is to see what you're kind of getting, and other than seeing me in the reflection, you can't really see what's there. I don't really know if that changes the cost for them on packaging, but whatever. You come around to the back of the package and you got various warnings and contact information, but for the packaging on this, that's about it. So without further ado, let's get this out here and see how cool it actually is. Alright guys, so here we have Kong versus the Skullcrawler opened up and out of its packaging. And I'm really very impressed with how this figure set turned out. As I said, it is a vinyl set, and you can see that it's kind of in this super deformed aesthetic, which really does give it a unique sort of look, while still bringing a tremendous amount of detail to both the Skullcrawler as well as Kong. Now, starting off, I don't know if they necessarily intended this, but inside the package you have this, which kind of, you got this little flap up here, you can fold that down, but this kind of looks like it's meant to be a bit of a display, doesn't it? You can see the different helicopters there in the back, all the sort of fiery elements that we got when they first encountered Kong on Skull Island. And I honestly think that I'm going to display this piece with this. I think that looks really very cool. So again, I don't know if that was the intended purpose of that, but I'm quite all right with it. Now, coming in to take a closer look at the figure set itself. This, as I said, has a tremendous amount of detail sculpted into the entire thing. Now, when you do get it, it kind of comes in parts that you sort of have to assemble, but realistically, that's about it. This is, as you can see, the figure stand. It does look like it's a river sort of thing with trees and everything around it. These guys were massive, so it makes sense that if you're looking down from their perspective, you would have a much smaller looking river than what it would probably be if we were there. I mean, that's probably like a mile across. I don't know. But you can see Kong Skull Island come around to the underside. Got a nice image of them. And as I mentioned, this is part of their Monsterverse line. Now, as you can see, it doesn't really, well, number one, he stands perfectly fine, just like so. So this is really a curious addition, because it doesn't actually peg onto him. I mean, again, he just stands there. But what you do get is this little metal piece with a little bracket that you can see has a little hole right here that you just plug that in, and then get that all the way in there. And then there's a sort of clasping mechanism to this, which I don't know if you can really see that, but yeah, you can kind of see the little clasp right there. So you sit that on there and then just bring this around, and it kind of clasps around the Skullcrawler's tail, just to give a little bit more stability to this. And then you can rotate that around, you can get it positioned as you see fit, but that's a nice little touch. It just kind of gives an extra little bit of support right there. And living here in California, where there are earthquakes every now and then, that's a nice little touch. Granted, as I showed you, you don't have to have it. You can just display it just like so. Oh, wait a minute, what's happening? Oh, what's happening? Oh, maybe it's just my table. My table is a little bit rounded here, so it does make things a little bit wobbly, but you can see he stands there perfectly fine. So if you didn't want to have that there breaking up the illusion of Kong fighting, you don't have to, but it does add some stability to that, which is really a nice little touch. coming to take a closer look at the detail. As I said, this is a vinyl piece, which one thing that's nice about vinyl is you actually can get a pretty substantial amount of detail sculpted into it. And you can see a lot of that here in the Skullcrawler's face. I mean, you got a tremendous amount of sculpted detail. You got his eyes, you have his tongue right there. I mean, you can see the mouth is just putrid. I mean, that is gross and hideous and ugly, as you know they should be. The underside has that same amount of detail as well. Great paint variation throughout the entire thing with grays and whites. You look at the arm here, again, tremendous amount of detail. You look at the claws, kind of got that webbing look there. And then it just, like, when you look at the nails here, I mean, that is really impressive. The paintwork on these is really exemplary. I mean, you look at the back, you got that whole tail going down. I love how it actually comes around, wraps around Kong's leg, and that paint detail and sculpting work goes throughout the entire thing. Even when you look here on the back, I mean, it's detailed up the wazoo. Looking at Kong, you can see from the back perspective, again, a tremendous amount of detail sculpted in, and then you have the brown highlights, which really do show the fur on him. Absolutely great. You come around to the front section, and you can see you got some nice gray paint here for the hands. Love how he has a giant gash going through the chest. That's gorgeous. Maybe if they added a little bit of blood to it, that would have been cool. Although I'm trying to remember, it's been a while since I've seen the movie. I'm trying to remember if like he had that scar before taking on these guys. I honestly, I don't remember. But the sculpted detail in there is fantastic. You look at the feet, you can see great detail with those. You got the hair and everything. And then you can see that his arm, one thing that I love is like right here, this little piece right here is when you're moving your arm, it's gonna have some like connective flesh to it. I love that that's sculpted in there. And that's a very subtle thing that looks terrific. And you can see that he's got his arm up here, kind of like pushing away at the Skullcrawler's head. I mean, you can see it's in a fist of sorts, but almost looks like he's grabbing hold of it. And actually, I'm looking at it. It does kind of look, I mean, because it's attached right there. So I am thinking that that is him actually grabbing on to the mouth. And then speaking of the mouth, I mean, looking at Kong's, I mean, again, tremendous amount of detail in the Skullcrawlers. Then when you look at Kong's, again, great detail with the paint. You got some black kind of highlighting right around the gum area. You got the paint for the gums and then dirty looking teeth, which look amazing. You open that up and get in there, you can see you got a real nice kind of glossy paint for the tongue and then the roof of his mouth, which you would expect in a living creature. So I love that they added that little sheen to it. Great eyes. One thing I would say is it kind of looks like his eyes are just looking straight on. I feel like he would have his eyes turned a little bit more to the focal point on the side, but still great detail with the eyes. I mean, I want to get in close to that. Hopefully you can see that. I mean, focus. There we go. I mean, that's great detail there in the eyes. You can see they're almost kind of bloodshot. And then you got that orange, the iris, black pupil. Absolutely gorgeous. Tremendous amount of detail on this piece that, again, for a vinyl figure, it really does just kind of blow me away. With the amount of detail. Now, I mean, I have a lot of vinyl pieces. People know that like Funko makes these vinyl pieces, but this is a level of detail that really does supersede anything that almost anyone else is doing. This really did turn out great. Now, granted, it does have that super deformed look, but as I said, it still really does nicely capture the look of both of these beasts. And as part of their Monsterverse, this really does kind of get me hyped up for other releases. These guys really do display very, very nicely. So, if you are a fan of the Skull Island movie, which I was, I thought it was a really well done movie, and I'm excited about the fact that Kong and Godzilla are going to be existing in the same universe. That's really very cool. I mean, these are two iconic movie monsters that deserve to be brought back for another generation with amazing CGI, great visual effects, all that. And both the first Godzilla movie and Kong Skull Island really did deliver on those. So it really does hype me for future crossovers. But as for this figure set, if you're a fan, I would absolutely recommend picking it up. As I mentioned, it displays beautifully and really is very eye-catching. So all that being said, if this vinyl set is a set that you'd like to add to your collection, it is available at several online retailers such as Big Bad Toy Store right now. So all you have to do for that is click on the link down in the video description. You'll go to BBTS where you can check out availability on this, as well as the rest of the pieces from Star Ace. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. Remember, if you like this video, I would really appreciate your support simply by hitting that little tiny thumbs up button. That one small gesture really does go a long way towards helping me out, and I would really appreciate it. And a huge thank you if you made it all the way to the end of this review. Another way that you can really help support my channel is making sure that you watch a video all the way through. And if you did that, thank you. Also, I want to send a huge shout out to the folks over at Star Ace for helping to make this review possible. And finally, remember, grow wise, grow strong, but never grow up. Thank you for watching and taking the time to be a kid.